The death of New York City and Amazon pulling out of its headquarters too. David Jaffe with beststockstrategy.com. You can go to beststockstrategy.com and enter in your email address to receive over $400 worth of free training materials. I wanted to make this video around 2 months ago, but I have a list of videos, ideas, and I just simply didn't get around to it as I cycle through all the videos that I made around January 1st. So unfortunately right now, I'm making this video on March 16th, and I should have made it a lot earlier because, as I said, what I usually do is I'll batch record around like 30 or 40 videos in a weekend, and I just didn't make it that last time. But in any case, I lived in New York City for around 13 years. I graduated from Cornell University in 2004, and then I accepted an investment banking job. I actually graduated from Cornell. I left Cornell after 3.5 years. I had a job at Morgan Stanley, but then I wanted to start in January of 2004, and they told me that they couldn't guarantee me a position in their analyst class 6 months earlier. So then I interviewed at CIBC World Markets in their Industrial Growth and Services Group, which was head by Mark Henkels at the time. And I think Henkels is now a Moelis company, I believe. But in any case, so I started working in investment banking around February 23rd of 2004, and I pretty much lived there for over 10 years. And I can tell you that New York City is a great place for people to live if they are really young, if they're ambitious, and they want to make a lot of money when working for someone else. That last part is very key because New York City is extremely expensive to live in. It's very old. The air is polluted. The people they're kind of friendly, but they're not really that friendly because they're very stressed out and they're always in a rush, and it's extremely expensive to live there. So I can tell you that if you're graduating from college and you're like $200,000 in debt, like many people are, or if you're just graduating from college and you're really ambitious, you want to go to New York City if you want to work in investment banking or real estate or finance or something like that, because that's where the majority of the jobs are. So you can work there for a few years, but don't do what I did and stay there for like over 10 years because it's just not a very good quality of life. The other thing is it's extremely expensive to live in New York City. The most expensive apartment that I lived in New York City was around $7,500 a month. So I was living in 75 Wall Street in apartment 36C, and at that time, I was paying around $7,500 a month in rent. I think now that apartment is renting for around $10,000 a month. And that was a really nice apartment. I also was living at 37 Wall Street, which is a great building. I lived at 505 West 37th Street, and that was also a really good building. But I think that the most expensive apartment I lived in New York City was, they charged me $75 a month to live in apartment 36C at 75 Wall Street. And I like living downtown because it was very about Amazon and how Amazon City is going to continue declining and New York City is on its deathbed. So living in New York City is extremely expensive. Currently I live in Miami and I pay around easily around $150,000 by moving out of New York City and living in Miami, and where there are less regulations. Miami actually acts like they care about, acts like you're fortunate to live there, or you're fortunate everything. I remember when I owned a restaurant there, and then like a $3,000 fine, and then 2 weeks later they would send someone, and then we only got don't like living in New York City. I don't have any desire to move back there. But when it comes to Amazon, a few million other people are going to make around 40 or 50,000. Those 25,000 jobs are probably going to create, I would say around 150,000 are going to, the 25,000 people are their families, so they're going to bring children, that's service those people. So let's say that those 25,000 jobs would create a population inflow into New York City of around 200,000 people, which I think is realistic. Let's say you disagree and then you say 150,000. But here's something that a lot of New Yorkers don't want you to know. The population of New York is actually decreasing. At best, it's staying stable. But in all likelihood, it's decreasing because the entire Northeast, with its very old infrastructure, its very high cost of living, and its high taxes, is completely emptying out. People to Las Vegas, people from the Northeast, which is extremely densely populated, are realizing that they don't have to put up with the cold winters, with the high taxes, with the high cost of living, with the old infrastructure, with the attitudes that the states have about not appreciating you bringing in your investment dollars, and people are simply voting with their feet and they're moving. And Amazon did the same thing. They said, hey, we don't need New York City. Screw you guys, I'm going home. It's like like Eric Cartman on South Park when he's like, screw this, I'm going home. I mean, that's pretty much fact, but they're not going to. And this is really an epidemic, and this is systemic of the mindset that people have in New York City. Like, they believe that their city is never going to decline, and even though it really hasn't reached, and even though other cities have overtaken New York City in terms of importance, like a lot of the cities like Shanghai, Beijing, even London has taken away a lot of the financial importance of like investment banking and trading that New York City used to have. But even though a lot of cities have appreciated in value and overtaken New York City in total importance, like also Mumbai in India, New York City is steadfast in its ways, and it's very arrogant. And they believe that one of the largest companies in the world, of 800, 900, or $1 trillion company like Amazon, is not welcome in New York City. And that's what they believe. They think that New York City is more important than Amazon. And in the grand scheme of things, New York City will continue to lose relevance in the grand scheme of the financial infrastructure. Will continue to lose importance and relevance as other second-tier cities like Charlotte, North Carolina, Las Vegas, Jacksonville, Florida, Miami, Austin, Texas, Dallas, even San Francisco, as those cities continue to increase in relevance and they start and they show companies to learn on somebody else's dollar, there's really no need for you to live in New York City. And I'm not surprised that Amazon pulled out of New York City, because I lived there for over 10 years. And what Amazon was explaining about the arrogance, the preposterousness, the high qualification, that's something that I experienced in New York City as well. And I voted with my feet and I left. And I think that Amazon pulling out of the 25,000 jobs, which was probably going to increase the population of New York State by around 200,000 people, Sullivan County in Monticello, New York, and that's like a shithole. And I mean, no offense, sorry, but it is. And the only county that I could possibly see which is healthy in Western New York State is Tompkins County, which has major universities. It has Cornell University and also has Ithaca State. So once you travel west of Orange County in New York State, pretty much it's like all poverty, right? So when you have like Orange County, then you start going into Ulster County and Sullivan County and then Delaware County and then Broome County and all those other counties, completely elevating and keeping the entire New York State afloat. But when you start killing off New York City, it's almost like you're chopping off the head from the snake. So the rest of the snake is going to flail around and it's going to be alive for a short period of time. But at the end of the day, it's going to die. And people are going to continue emptying out of Western New York State because it's too expensive to live there, and the price of electricity and heating oil and things like that are extremely expensive, and oil and gas. People just don't want to put up with the winters. So people are going to continue moving out of like Westchester, or rather of Rochester and Buffalo. And this deal with Amazon that New York City failed to capitalize on is just simply systemic and symptomatic, and that's wrong, and they're going to pay the price. If you have any questions, let me know. Leave a comment below. Let me know what your thoughts are about Amazon pulling out in New York City. And please like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel. You can go to beststockstrategy.com and enter in your email address to receive over $400 worth of free training materials. And I appreciate and thank you for your attention.